The Council's emergency broadcast. Deathworlders have declared us all valid targets. HFY Part 1. The Transgression. Captain John Miller stood on the bridge of the Earth diplomatic vessel Horizon, his eyes fixed on the main screen as it went. Dark. The blue-skinned alien had cut the transmission without ceremony. High Counselor Zexvir's final words still hung in the air. The petition from Earth is denied on grounds of security concerns. This decision is final. John took a deep breath. This was the third time the Galactic Council had rejected Earth's application for full membership. 3 years of diplomatic missions, trade concessions, and promises to follow Council regulations, all for nothing. Captain? Executive Officer Maria Hayes approached from her station. Should I inform Earth Command? Not yet, John said, running a hand through his short brown hair. Let's see what our friends in communications picked up first. The Horizon wasn't just a diplomatic vessel. Hidden beneath its civilian design were some of the most advanced intelligence systems humanity had developed. While the Council thought they were simply rejecting another formal petition, Communications Officer Lisa Boyd had been busy intercepting their private channel. 20 minutes later, the senior crew gathered in the briefing room. John looked around, at the faces of his team. They represented the best of humanity, dedicated, intelligent, and hopeful for a better future among the stars. They deserved to know the truth. Lisa, play back what you found, he ordered. Lisa, a tall woman with dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun, nodded and activated the room's audio system. Static filled the air, then cleared to reveal voices speaking in the musical language of the Council's inner circle. The computer translated in real time. These primitives from Sol 3 must be contained, came the cold voice of Senior Counselor Trinal. Their biological resilience makes them too dangerous to allow free movement through civilized space. The quarantine protocols must be maintained indefinitely. Another voice joined in, this one higher-pitched. Agreed. Their planet tried to kill them at every stage of their evolution, and they survived. What kind of species emerges from such a hellscape? Only monsters. John watched his crew's reactions. Shock, disbelief. And then, as more of the recording played, anger. Defense Attaché Frank Ortiz, a stocky man with 20 years of military service, was the first to speak when the recording ended. He slammed his fist on the table, making the coffee cups jump. They've been lying to us for decades, he growled. All those safety protocols and temporary restrictions were just to keep us boxed in while they strip-mined the systems around. A science officer, Will Cooper, nodded. That explains the unusual activity we detected in the Proxima Centauri system. They told us it was a research station, but it was a mining operation, John finished for him. Using resources that, by their own laws, should be under Earth's domain. Lisa pulled up more data on the main display. I've found references to something called the Death World Containment Initiative. It seems Earth isn't the first world they've done this to. Any species from planets with high gravity, extreme temperatures, or hostile ecosystems gets the same treatment. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had spent 50 years believing they were on a path to acceptance. In the galactic community, they had limited their expansion, accepted oversight of their technology development, and played by rules designed to keep them isolated. What do we do, Captain? Asked Maria, her voice steady despite the anger in her eyes. John considered the question carefully. As a diplomatic captain, his actions would have serious consequences. The Council controlled thousands of worlds. Earth and its few colonies were vastly outnumbered. We have a choice, he said finally. We can continue playing their game, hoping they'll eventually accept us as equals when we all know now they never will. Or we can show them exactly what humans are capable of. You don't mean war, Maria said, concern evident in her voice. No, not war. John shook his head. Something more powerful, the truth. His decision came swiftly after that. Lisa, transmit the full recording to Earth Command. Copy it to all colonial governors as well. The people have a right to know that the Council considers humans as nothing more than violent primitives to be contained rather than allies. Sir, that will violate at least 6 provisions of the Treaty of Proxima, the ship's legal advisor, Patrick Allen, pointed out. John's expression hardened. A treaty based on lies isn't worth the data it's written on. Within hours, the unedited council deliberations spread across Earth's networks. The response was immediate and unified in a way humanity rarely achieved. Workers walked out of council-owned businesses. Ships refused to dock at council stations. Colonial governors issued statements condemning the council's duplicity. The Horizon received urgent transmissions from both Earth Command and the council, but John ordered the ship to maintain position at the edge of the system, away from the council station's weapons range. 3 days later, President Samantha Torres addressed the United Nations. Her face, usually diplomatic and measured, showed cold determination as she spoke to representatives from every nation on Earth. For 50 years we have acted in good faith, she said, her voice carrying to billions of viewers across human space. We have trusted the Council's promises that acceptance would come with time. Now we know those promises were empty. The Council fears us not for what we've done but for what we are, survivors of a world that forged us to be resilient. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the assembly. If the Galactic Council considers all humans as threats simply for existing, then perhaps it's time we lived up to their expectations. Back on the Horizon, John watched the address with his crew. When it ended, he turned to Lisa. Any response? From the Council yet? Lisa checked her console. Nothing official, but our sensors are detecting unusual activity around their station. Multiple ships departing in haste. I think we scared them, Captain. John nodded slowly, a grim smile forming on his lips. Good. It's about time they learned that the species they dismissed as simple Deathworlders have been holding back all this time, not out of weakness, but out of a desire for peace. He looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. Humanity had entered the galactic stage hoping for friendship. Instead, they had found fear and prejudice. Now a new chapter was beginning, one where humans would no longer apologize for surviving the world that had forged them. Set course for Earth, he ordered. It's time to go home and prepare for whatever comes next. As the Horizon turned away, from Council space, emergency broadcasts began blaring across thousands of worlds. Deathworlders have declared us all valid targets. This is not a drill. The Council's worst fear had come true. The humans knew the truth, and they were done being contained. The Council's emergency broadcast, Deathworlders have declared us all valid targets. Sci Part 2, The Declaration Admiral. Peter Wright stood before the emergency session of the United Nations Space Command. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his eyes burned with intensity. Behind him, large screens displayed the Galactic Council's emergency session in progress. The aliens didn't know humans were watching. The humans have accessed restricted communications, exclaimed Counselor Gerthal, a tall insect-like being whose multicolored membranes fluttered in obvious distress. They know our containment strategies. On another screen, Council ships moved in formation around their central worlds. They were preparing for war. High Chancellor Vox Nebulon raised his 4 primary appendages for silence. The wrinkled gray skin of the ancient alien seemed to sag even more than usual. Order! This assembly will maintain order, he demanded, his translator making his voice sound metallic. We must issue an immediate response to these Deathworlders. Admiral Wright turned away from the screens to face the human representatives from Earth and all its colonies. Men and women from every nation sat in tense silence. For 50 years, Wright began, his deep voice filling the chamber. We've played by their rules. We limited our expansion to only 5 systems when we could have settled 20. We accepted their oversight of our technology, pretending their scientists were helping us when they were actually holding us back. And we believed their promises of eventual acceptance. He paused, looking at each section of the assembly. Now we know the truth. They never intended to accept us as equals. Their fear of what we are has always been too great. On the screens behind him, the Council's debate grew more heated. Some members argued for a military response, Others suggested stronger containment. None spoke of peace or acceptance. "We have three options," Wright continued. "We can continue to play their game, hoping for a different outcome. We can prepare for the war they clearly expect. Or we can change the rules entirely." Defense Minister Elena Diaz stood up. "The Council controls thousands of worlds. Even with our superior ship technology, we cannot win a prolonged conflict." "I'm not suggesting war," Wright replied. "I'm suggesting independence." The word hung in the air. Independence. Freedom from Council rules and restrictions. The right to expand and develop without alien oversight. The vote didn't take long. It was unanimous. Earth would no longer recognize the Council's authority. In her office overlooking the Washington Monument, President Samantha Torres prepared to make history. On her desk sat a single document, the Declaration of Human Sovereignty. Her advisors stood nervously around her. "Are we certain this is the right course?" asked Foreign Secretary Alan Phillips. "The Council might see this as an act of war." Torres picked up the document. "They already see us as a threat simply for existing. At least now we're acting on our own terms." She pressed her thumb against the signature line, allowing the document to scan her DNA. Official and binding. Then she spoke a single word. Send. The document was instantly transmitted to every Council world, embassy, and outpost in known space. Its message was simple. As of this moment, humanity withdraws from all treaties with the Galactic Council. We claim sovereignty over Sol and all systems within 50 light years. Any hostile action against human interests will be met with overwhelming force. We are not your subjects to be contained. We are not your problem to be solved. We are humans of Earth, and we refuse to apologize for surviving the world that forged us. The reaction was immediate. Across Council space, emergency broadcasts blared. "Deathworlders have declared us all valid targets. This is not a drill." On the Council's central world, panic spread through the streets. Citizens rushed to emergency shelters. Ships filled with the wealthy launched toward the outer systems. The Council had spent generations telling its people that humans were dangerous monsters from a deadly world. Now those monsters had broken their chains. What the panicking aliens didn't know was that humanity had no plans to attack anyone. The declaration was a political move, not a military one. Back on Earth, Admiral Wright met with the newly formed Human Defense Force. Ship captains from every nation gathered in the underground command center beneath the Atlantic Ocean. "The Council believes we're preparing an attack," Wright explained, pointing to intelligence reports on the main screen. "They've pulled their ships back to defend their core worlds." Captain Scott Daniels of the American fleet raised his hand. "Are we attacking?" "No," Wright said firmly, "but we are taking back what's ours." He showed a map of nearby star systems. Red dots indicated Council mining operations within what should have been human territory. These facilities have been stripping resources from planets that, by the Council's own laws, should be under Earth's domain. As of today, they're trespassing on sovereign human territory. The captains nodded in understanding. This wasn't about conquest, it was about claiming what was rightfully theirs. "What if they resist?" asked Captain Julie Nelson of the Pacific Alliance. Wright's expression hardened. "Then they'll learn why Deathworlders should be respected, not feared." The human fleet departed Earth the next day. 50 ships, the most ever assembled, jumped to faster-than-light speed toward the disputed systems. They carried no planet-killing weapons, no biological agents, nothing that would violate galactic conventions, but they carried something the Council feared more: humans who would no longer bow to alien prejudice. On the Council homeworld, the emergency session had devolved into chaos. Representatives from 100 species argued over how to respond. "We must negotiate," insisted Councillor Nerithal, a water-breathing being whose tank was positioned at the center of the chamber. "The humans haven't actually attacked anyone yet." "Negotiate? With Deathworlders?" High Chancellor Vox Nebulin's voice dripped with scorn. "They wouldn't exist if their world hadn't tried to kill them at every evolutionary turn. Violence is in their very DNA. An aide rushed into the chamber, interrupting the debate. He whispered something to the Chancellor, whose gray skin turned almost white. "The human fleet has been detected," Vox Nebulan announced. "They're moving toward our mining facilities in the disputed systems." "Are they attacking?" someone shouted. "No, they're transmitting a message on all frequencies, audio only." The Chancellor reluctantly activated the message for all to hear. Admiral Wright's voice filled the chamber. "This is Admiral Peter Wright of the Human Defense Force. We are reclaiming systems that fall within human territory, as defined by our Declaration of Sovereignty. All Council personnel are instructed to evacuate immediately. You have 24 hours to comply. We will provide transportation for any who need it. We come not as conquerors, but as rightful claimants to our own space. There is no need for conflict unless you choose to create one." The message ended, leaving the Council chamber in stunned silence. "They're giving our people safe passage out?" Councillor Gurthal asked, clearly confused. "It's a trick," the Chancellor insisted. But deep down, many Council members were beginning to wonder, had they misunderstood humans all along? The Council's emergency broadcast: "Deathworlders have declared us all valid targets." HFY Part 3. The Panic Council member. Lore stood at the observation window of Proxima Station, her 3 eyes wide with fear. Her slender fingers trembled as she watched the human warships appear at the edge of the system. One moment empty space. The next 5 massive vessels with the new human insignia. A stylized Earth with a sword through it. "Impossible," whispered her assistant. "The Galactic Survey Force said this outpost was secure. The humans couldn't possibly have jump technology sophisticated enough to bypass the monitoring stations. Yet here they were." Lore turned to the command center, where staff ran in all directions. "Send a message to Central Command. The humans have arrived. Request immediate military support." The communications officer looked up with large, frightened eyes. "All channels to Central Command are being blocked. We're receiving only one signal, from the human ships." "Play it," Lore ordered, trying to keep her voice steady. A human face appeared on the main screen. A female with dark skin and serious eyes. "This is Admiral Kelly Rodriguez of the Earth vessel Defiance. Your mining operation is now in sovereign human territory as declared by Earth's government. You have 24 hours to evacuate all personnel. We will provide transportation for those who need it. This is not a hostile action unless you make it one." Across Council space, similar scenes played out. Human vessels appeared in system after system, always with the same message. No attacks, no violence, just firm declarations of sovereignty over territories the Council had claimed for generations. On the luxury pleasure world of Hedon Prime, thousands of wealthy Council citizens frantically boarded evacuation ships. The resort planet's position near human space had once been considered perfectly safe. Now the vacation paradise emptied in days, leaving behind abandoned luxury hotels and entertainment complexes. "The humans will destroy everything," cried one Vespid tourist as she pushed her way onto an evacuation ship. "Everyone knows Deathworlders only understand violence, but the humans never came to Hedon Prime. They claimed only the systems specifically listed in their declaration." Admiral Kelly Rodriguez watched from the bridge of the Defiance as her fleet secured the perimeter of what was now officially human space. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her uniform crisp despite being on duty for 30 hours straight. "Status report," she ordered. Commander Alan Powell looked up from his console. A scar ran across his left cheek, a reminder of Earth's brief civil war 10 years earlier. "Ma'am, Council forces are retreating from all border systems. Long range scans show massive fleet movements throughout their territory. They appear to be consolidating around their core worlds." Rodriguez nodded. "And the mining operations they claimed didn't exist in our territory?" "Abandoned, Admiral. They left so quickly that most equipment was left operational. Engineering teams report we can have the Proxima facility running at full capacity within days, under human control." The Admiral allowed herself a small smile. They really do believe their own propaganda about us, don't they? They're terrified we'll do to them what they plan to do to us. Powell nodded. Latest intelligence from our deep cover agents suggests the Council genuinely expected us to launch attacks on civilian targets. They've evacuated 3 border worlds completely. Rodriguez shook her head. All this panic and we haven't fired a single shot. Meanwhile, in the Council's central chamber on their homeworld, panic had given way to desperate planning. Representatives from all major species gathered around a large holographic display showing human fleet movements. We must negotiate, insisted Councillor Nerithal, her water tank positioned at the center of the chamber. The humans haven't actually attacked anyone yet. They've allowed all our people to evacuate safely. Negotiate? With Deathworlders? High Chancellor Vox Nebulin's voice dripped with scorn. This is clearly a trap. They're lulling us into a false sense of security before they strike. We must prepare our defenses. Defense Minister Kavach, a reptilian being with scale armor covering his body, studied the display closely. Our intelligence suggests the humans have technology we didn't know about. Their jump capabilities exceed our estimates by at least 50 years, and these new ships, he pointed to images of the human vessels. They're clearly designed for war, yet they've been used with remarkable restraint. Restraint today means nothing, the Chancellor insisted. Their planet is a hellscape that produces only killers. Their restraint is a calculated deception. From the back of the chamber, a small voice spoke up. Science Counselor Zhokran, rarely one to participate in political debates, moved forward. The ancient being's translucent skin revealed pulsing organs beneath. Perhaps, Zhokran suggested, we should consider that we've fundamentally misunderstood humans all along. The chamber fell silent. Zhokran was respected across all worlds for his scientific achievements. Explain, demanded the Chancellor. Our assumption has always been that a species evolved on a Class 12 death world must be inherently violent and destructive. Yet look at the evidence before us. Zhokran gestured to the display. They've reclaimed territory we took from them, yes, but they've done so with minimal force. They've evacuated our people safely. They've made no demands beyond the systems they claimed in their declaration. The Council members looked at each other uncertainly. We've monitored their communications, Zhokran continued. Their leaders speak not of conquest but of independence, not of destroying us but of coexisting as equals. What if the trait that helped them survive their deadly world wasn't violence but cooperation? Before anyone could respond, a junior aide rushed into the chamber. Urgent news from the Borealis sector. The human fleet has discovered our biological research station. The room erupted in chaos. The Borealis station housed the Council's most secret project, a biological research facility studying human DNA, trying to find weaknesses that could be exploited if containment failed. They'll see it as an act of war, Nerithal whispered. On the Defiance, Admiral Rodriguez stared at the images on her screen in disbelief. The Borealis station wasn't just a research facility, it was a biological weapons lab. Samples of Earth diseases modified to be more deadly, human DNA being manipulated into biological weapons. They were planning to use our own biology against us, she said quietly. Orders, Admiral? Commander Powell asked. His hand hovered over the weapons console. Rodriguez was silent for a long moment. The Council had feared humans would be monsters. Here was proof they had planned monstrous acts of their own. The weapons on the Defiance could destroy the station with a single command. Finally, she spoke. Send a message to Earth Command with all evidence attached, then hail the station. When the station commander appeared on screen, Rodriguez spoke clearly. We know what you've been doing here. All personnel will evacuate immediately. The facility and all research materials will be secured by human forces for investigation of violations of galactic conventions on biological warfare. Across human space, news of the Borealis discovery spread quickly. Yet despite calls for retaliation, President Torres addressed the world with calm resolve. We will not become the monsters they feared. We will document these violations, present them to neutral parties, and show the galaxy that humans choose justice over vengeance. In the council chamber, Zhou Kran watched the human response with growing interest. Perhaps, he thought, it was time to seriously reconsider everything they thought they knew about Deathworlders. The council's emergency broadcast, Deathworlders have declared us all valid targets. HFY Part 4, The Revelation Doctor. Susan Martinez adjusted her uniform as she entered the diplomatic chamber on Neutral Station Gamma. The space station orbited, a gas giant in a system that belonged to neither humans nor the Council. It was as neutral as possible in the current crisis. Susan took a deep breath to calm her nerves. As Earth's lead xenobiologist, she had been chosen to face the Council's scientific delegation. Her research on alien biology had earned her respect across human space, but today she would meet aliens who had studied humans as potential enemies for decades. Across the large table sat 5 of the most esteemed scientists in Council space. In the center was the legendary Zhou Kran, his translucent skin revealing pulsing organs beneath. His theories on comparative xenobiology had been required reading during Susan's university days. "You requested this meeting," Zhou Kran began, his translator converting his harmonic tones to English. "We are here under diplomatic protection and expect to be treated accordingly." Susan nodded. "Of course, Doctor. I simply wanted to correct some misconceptions about humans that appear in Council records. After the discovery at Borealis Station, we feel it's important to establish scientific truth rather than allow fear to guide policy." With a gesture, she activated the holographic display in the center of the table. An image of Earth appeared, beautiful and blue. "This is Earth, classified by your standards as a Class 12 death world," Susan began. "But did you know that humans have established habitation zones in environments ranging from polar regions at -50 degrees Celsius to equatorial deserts at +50 degrees? Without environmental suits." The Council scientists shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "Furthermore," Susan continued, "the average human can survive radiation levels that would be fatal to most Council species, can heal from injuries that would be terminal for others, and can adapt to atmospheric variations that would cause respiratory failure in 90% of known sentient species." The youngest Council scientist, a feathered being named Uri Pan, leaned forward. "If I may, Dr. Martinez, and these traits you describe, they're precisely why containment protocols were established. Your resilience makes humans unpredictable and potentially dangerous." Susan nodded. "I understand that perspective. But I'd like to show you something that wasn't in your studies." The hologram changed to show scenes from Earth's history. Ancient humans huddled around fires, early villages, with people working together, cities rising. Your researchers focused on human physiology and our capacity to survive, but they missed something crucial about our psychology. Susan explained. "Yes, Earth tried to kill us at every turn, but we survived not primarily through violence, but through cooperation." The images changed again, showing humans helping each other through disasters, floods, fires, earthquakes. When faced with the harshest conditions, humans don't turn on each other, as your models predicted. Most often, we come together, we share resources, we protect the vulnerable. Zhou Kran's membranes fluttered. "We are aware of human resilience, Doctor. It is precisely why containment protocols were established. Your capacity for survival made you too unpredictable." Susan smiled gently. "Survival isn't the same as aggression, Dr. Zhou Kran. Look at our history. Despite our capacity for violence, humans have consistently moved toward peaceful coexistence. Our most successful societies are those that value cooperation over conflict." She displayed Earth's historical records, centuries of warfare giving way to periods of peace and cooperation. "We're not inherently destructive. We're survivors. And the best way to survive, we learned, is to work together. The Council's fear of us has created the very situation you sought to prevent." The scientists were silent, absorbing her words. Susan continued. "At Borealis Station, we found something troubling. Your scientists were creating biological weapons based on human DNA, weapons that could have killed billions." Uripan's feathers ruffled in distress. That project was not approved by the Scientific Council. We would never. I believe you, Susan interrupted. Because scientists, regardless of species, generally seek understanding, not destruction. That's why I wanted to meet with you specifically. The political leaders are too caught up in fear and pride, but people like us, we follow evidence. She changed the display again, showing the human fleet's movements since the declaration of sovereignty. Not a single attack, not one civilian casualty. If humans were the monsters you feared, wouldn't we have seized this opportunity for revenge? The Council's defenses were unprepared. You expected slaughter, yet we've shown restraint at every turn. Zhou Kran studied the display carefully. Your point is logically sound, Doctor. Our models may have been based on incorrect assumptions. We don't want to conquer you, Susan said simply. We never did. We wanted to be accepted as equals despite our differences. Uripan spoke up again. But if humans are truly peaceful by nature, why did your leaders choose to frighten the entire council with your declaration? Why claim to be valid targets? Susan smiled. We never said that. Your leaders did. Our declaration simply claimed sovereignty over our own systems. It was your emergency broadcast that proclaimed, Deathworlders have declared us all valid targets. The council scientists looked at each other in confusion. It seems, Zhou Kran said slowly, that fear has influenced more than just scientific models. As the meeting concluded, Zhou Kran approached Susan privately. The ancient scientist moved with careful dignity. What you've shown us contradicts everything. In our historical models of Deathworld species, he said, if humans truly sought peace despite their capabilities. He left the thought unfinished. Perhaps, Susan suggested, it's time for new models. Not based on fear, but on actual evidence. Zhou Kran's skin changed color slightly, the equivalent of a thoughtful nod. I would be interested in collaborative research, if the political situation allows it. That's why I'm here, Susan replied. Science can build bridges where politics builds walls. As she prepared to leave, Susan received an urgent message from Earth Command. The Council had requested a formal diplomatic meeting, not with military leaders, but with scientists and cultural representatives. Zhou Kran and his team had already submitted their preliminary findings, challenging decades of Council policy toward Deathworld species. Back on the Defiance, Admiral Rodriguez received the same news. Commander Powell looked surprised. They want to talk? After everything they've done, Rodriguez nodded. Dr. Martinez was right. Sometimes the best way to change minds isn't through force, but through understanding. Across Council space, the emergency broadcasts began to change. No longer did they scream about dangerous Deathworlders. Instead, they announced, updated, advisory. Human territories remain restricted pending diplomatic resolution. All citizens should remain calm and await further information. It wasn't peace yet, but it was a start. On Earth, President Torres addressed the United Nations again. Her expression was solemn but hopeful. We have shown the galaxy that humans cannot be defined solely by the harshness of our homeworld. We are not just survivors. We are builders, thinkers, and peacekeepers. In proving the Council wrong about our nature, we have opened a door to a new understanding between our peoples. She paused, looking out at the representatives of humanity. The path ahead may still be difficult. Trust, once broken, is not easily repaired. But today, science and truth have prevailed over fear and prejudice, and that gives me hope for our future among the stars. The Council's emergency broadcast, Deathworlders have declared us all valid targets. HFY Part 5, The New Understanding. 6 months after Earth's declaration, the Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Captain John Miller walked down the central aisle. His dress uniform was crisp and formal, bearing the new insignia of human space. Behind him followed President Samantha Torres and a small delegation of Earth representatives. This was the first time humans had been invited into the sacred chamber as equals rather than petitioners. The vast room held representatives from over 200 species. Many had never seen a human in person before. They watched with a mixture of curiosity and lingering fear. Chancellor Vox Nebulon spoke first from his elevated platform. His gray skin seemed less wrinkled today, as if the past months had somehow rejuvenated the ancient alien. This emergency session recognizes the human delegation, he announced formally. We have reviewed your terms for peaceful coexistence. President Torres stepped forward. Her simple blue suit was deliberately non-military, a choice made to emphasize the peaceful nature of this historic meeting. They are not terms, Chancellor, she said clearly. They are facts. Humanity will no longer accept second-class status. We will not be contained, studied, or marginalized, but neither do we seek dominion over others. The evidence presented by Dr. Martinez had circulated throughout council space over the past months. The scientific papers challenging long-held beliefs about Deathworld species had been reviewed and largely accepted by the academic community. Humans could have struck at any time during the decades of containment, yet they hadn't. The Council acknowledges its misjudgment, Vox Nebulon, stated carefully. Each word seemed to cost him effort. A new treaty has been prepared, recognizing Earth as a sovereign power with full rights and responsibilities in galactic affairs. A holographic document appeared before the President. Unlike the previous treaties, this one was simple and direct. No hidden clauses, no subtle restrictions, just a clear agreement between equals. And the Borealis project? Torres asked directly. The biological weapons research remained a painful point. The Chancellor's skin darkened slightly, the equivalent of a human blush. Those responsible have been removed from their positions. All research has been destroyed under neutral observation. The Council formally apologizes for this violation of galactic conventions. Torres nodded and placed her hand on the document. It scanned her DNA and recorded her acceptance. The treaty was signed. Throughout the chamber, a ripple of something, like relief, spread among the representatives. For months, many had lived in fear of human retaliation. Now that fear could finally begin to fade. As the formal proceedings concluded, Captain Miller found himself standing next to Communications Officer Lisa Boyd, who had been included in the delegation because of her role in discovering the Council's deception. Did you ever think it would end like this? She asked quietly. Miller looked around at the Council representatives, many of whom were now speaking directly with human delegates, their initial fear giving way to cautious curiosity. Not exactly, he admitted. But sometimes being misunderstood can be an advantage. They feared what they didn't understand about us, our resilience, our adaptability. They mistook our strength for aggression. And now? Miller watched as Dr. Martinez demonstrated human handshaking customs to an amazed group of council scientists. Now they understand that surviving a death world doesn't make you a monster. It makes you incredibly hard to kill. And perhaps, paradoxically, more determined to live in peace. Throughout council space, the emergency broadcasts that had once spread panic were replaced with a new message. Attention all citizens, human territories are no longer restricted. Diplomatic relations have been established. Cultural exchange programs are now available for qualified applicants. 3 months after the treaty signing, the first official council delegation arrived on Earth. The visitors were nervous at first, having been raised on stories of Earth's deadly environment. They wore protective suits and carried emergency medical kits. By the end of their 2-week stay, most had abandoned their protective gear. They walked freely through human cities, sampled Earth foods carefully tested for cross-species compatibility, and even visited natural wonders like the Grand Canyon and the Amazon rainforest. It's beautiful, said Counselor Uripan, the young scientist who had been part of the original meeting with Dr. Martinez. His feathers ruffled in the gentle breeze as he stood at the edge of the Grand Canyon. We were taught that death worlds were hellscapes of constant danger. But this, it can be dangerous, John Miller replied honestly. He had been assigned as the delegation's guide. There are places on Earth where humans cannot survive without technology. But those hard places shaped us, made us who we are. The most surprising development came 6 months later, when the first council species requested human assistance in colonizing worlds previously deemed too hazardous for settlement. As it turned out, Having Deathworlders as allies opened up possibilities that no one in the Council had ever imagined. On a newly established colony on the edge of Council space, Admiral Kelly Rodriguez watched as human engineers worked alongside alien settlers to establish environmental systems that could withstand the planet's extreme temperature fluctuations. "It's ironic," she said to Commander Powell as they observed the work. "They feared us because we could survive harsh conditions. Now they value us for the same reason." Powell nodded. "Humans always did work best when we had a problem to solve." Back on Earth, President Torres received news of yet another request for human assistance, this time from a species that had once been among the strongest advocates for human containment. "They're asking for our help with disaster management," her aide explained. "Their homeworld is experiencing tectonic instability for the first time in their recorded history." Torres smiled. "Send our best teams, and include cultural specialists. This is about more than just solving technical problems." In his personal laboratory, Dr. Zokran worked alongside human scientists, studying the unique adaptations that allow different species to survive in various environments. His latest paper, Cooperative Strategies in Evolutionary Development, Lessons from Deathworld Species, had become required reading in xenobiology programs across the galaxy. "I was wrong," he admitted to Dr. Martinez during one of their regular video conferences. "We all were. We saw your physical resilience and assumed it must be paired with aggression and violence. We never considered that cooperation and empathy might be equally valuable survival traits." "Understanding often comes through challenge," Martinez replied. "Perhaps that's something our species share, the ability to learn and grow." Throughout human space, citizens adjusted to their new role in galactic society. No longer outcasts or subjects to be contained, they had become valued members of the interstellar community. Their unique perspective, shaped by Earth's harsh conditions, brought fresh solutions to problems that had plagued other species for generations. And across Council space, the emergency alerts about dangerous Deathworlders became a distant memory, replaced by a new understanding. Those forged in fire were not to be feared but respected as allies who knew how to face the universe's harshest challenges and emerge stronger.